See, that's the thing that surprises me. Obviously, those of us in our generation still love the 60s music, but my kids are listening to it. My 12-year-old son is playing it.
I think it's a question of it. It worked then. It felt good. It just had a feeling. It had a spirit, and it still has today. And kids, if you're growing up today or any time, music works if it works, and it worked then. It works today.
I always wanted to ask you, Mark, what was it like to play music in those Revolutionary War uniforms?
It was like working with a bunch of clowns. You turned around. It's impossible to have a bad time when the bass player is, you know, wearing a lace dicky. I mean, it's...
Do you miss the 60s? And the 60s music?
I miss every year. No, sure I reminisce, but it's a part of my life that'll always be there, so I really don't miss it. I still have it with me.
Yeah, it was a rough era, the 60s, in that we had to make happy music. We had to make lasting, emotional music just to counteract the feelings that were going on politically in this country. It was kind of a backwash, and now that people think back on it, yes, they do have those platoon feelings of guilt in their heads, but they also remember the good times, the songs that counteracted those bad feelings, and the happy times that stay with them manifest themselves in the crowds that come to see us.
A lot of performers from the 60s have just faded into oblivion. What is it about you guys that you've retained, whatever it is, that makes people want to come out and see you in concert so many years later?
Energy, for one thing. I mean, I think it's a real positive attitude about the music that we've made. Not feeling dated about doing songs that are 20 years old. You know, people come up and say, how can you still do that song? And it seems as new and as fresh and alive as the year that you cut it. Well, a good song's a good song. And it's always the performance, the first performance, and watching the crowd and getting that feedback reaction that brings the pleasure. You know, the music isn't old and the people aren't old. If you keep your spirit up, the audience gets it.
Flo and Eddie, Mark Lindsay,
thank you.
I'm looking forward to the tour, and so are my kids, by the way.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be right back.
Next hour, Julio Iglesias, and tomorrow, Don Amici.
There's only one of these in the whole world.
And you gave it to me. Whoa, what a crunch. That's unreal.
Oh, it's not unreal. It's all natural.
You said there was only one of these.
I meant that one-of-a-kind nutty taste.
I was going to say nutty. What are these?
Give you a hint.
Nuts. Grape nuts.
The one and only.
Post Grape Nut cereal.
I'll guard this box with my life.
Don't cover up the name.
If you can boil water, great eating's in the bag. Introducing Uncle Ben's Great Rice in a Boiling Bag. The great taste of separate, fluffy Uncle Ben's rice. It's in the bag. No measuring. No mess. It's in the bag. When you only have 10 minutes, it's in the bag. Uncle Ben's new boiling bag rice for delicious separate rice your family will love. It's in the bag. Uncle Ben's, single or family servings. It really does make a difference.
When we come back, the terrifying problem of sexually abused children and what one man is doing to help, plus a new controversy about searching for sunken treasure.
Also coming up, the wonderful Julio Iglesias and Joel Siegel's look at The Untouchables, Robert De Niro's new movie, and the winner of a contest to find the best spaghetti sauce.
And yesterday, in answer to our question, 25,656 of you said you would submit to an AIDS test, and just 1,565.
1,865, there you go.
Is that what it says? Said no, they wouldn't.
And we'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us.
Wednesday, perfect strangers get some private lessons.
Nudity is no problem.
Let's party!
Dan.
I've decided to let you grade your own papers.
A+. Plus. Plus.
Head of the class. And MacGyver moves to his new night.
Hang on, everybody!
All this summer, he'll be turning tragedy
MacGyver?
into triumph. MacGyver.
Tonight.
A visit to your professional allied florist is a beautiful experience where you can give flowers to someone special. Yourself.
The specials at Farmer Jack are so special, it's now you see them, but after Sunday, you won't. Save on quarter-inch lean trim USDA choice beef round steak, just $1.68 a pound, only till Sunday. And farm-made butter, 1 pound carton quarters, just $1.66, only till Sunday. And bulk red ripe California strawberries are just 88 cents a pound, but only till Sunday. One supermarket is better than the rest. Farmer Jack.
One good thing about the hot Florida sun. Without it, we'd never get nature's perfect refresher, grapefruit juice. And of course, no one can get it to you better than Tropicana. Never too tart, never too sweet. Just pure, crisp, natural juice with all those luscious bits of Florida grapefruit. For pure refreshment, you've just got to sit yourself down with Tropicana grapefruit juice. You know, you just can't pick better juice.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Joan Lennon. If you're just joining us, Spencer Christian is here with me today.
Filling in for the lucky Charlie Gibson, who is in Europe right now.
That's right. He went to Venice, Italy, went over there for the Economic Summit. He's doing a few stories over the next few days, so he'll be there in Europe all next week.
Yep, and today is Wednesday, June 3rd.
Most of us can only guess at the terror and the pain of being an abused or sexually exploited child. But Andrew Fax is a lawyer. He's an author who's decided to act against the abusers and the exploiters. In this half hour, we will hear how he does it. And then we will also go live to that ill-fated tug still trying to unload that garbage. And we will talk to the captain of the tug now in the New York Harbor.
And Julio Iglesias is back in the news with a new album. Chantal will bring us her visit with him, with the great singing star. Joel Siegel will review The Untouchables. And if you love spaghetti, and I certainly do, stick around. We'll see how to make it taste even better without making you look like your pasta your prima. But right now, Edie Magnus has the news. Good morning, Edie.
Good morning, Spencer and Joan.
Morning.
And good morning, everyone. President Reagan is heading to Venice. The president leaves this morning for the seven-nation Western Economic Summit in Italy, which begins next Monday. The Western leaders will spend 2 days mulling over numerous economic problems, such as curbing government subsidies to farmers, political issues like increasing tensions in the Persian Gulf, and a major global health problem, AIDS. Before leaving, the president cleared up a pressing economic issue at home. Mr. Reagan nominated economist Alan Greenspan to take over as chairman of the Federal Reserve Board. Paul Volcker is stepping down after two terms in which he was credited with helping to curb inflation. And Greenspan says he hopes to continue that legacy.
Under Paul's chairmanship, inflation has been effectively subdued. It will be up to those of us who follow him to be certain that those very hard-won gains are not lost. Assuring that will be one of my primary goals.
While the president was dealing with economic issues, Congress was addressing the problems of the Persian Gulf. The House voted to require President Reagan to inform Congress about America's growing presence in the Gulf. But the Senate said it wants even tougher restrictions on U.S. military involvement there. Ann Compton picks up the story.
Doubts about American policy in the Persian Gulf run so deep that the House Foreign Affairs Committee refused to pass what had been considered a modest bill. The law would require the administration to let Congress in on its war plans in the Gulf within 7 days. Democratic leaders resurrected the bill on the House floor, where critics argued the reflagging of Kuwaiti oil tankers could draw America into the Iran-Iraq war.
The Persian Gulf is a snake pit. You see, I don't want to send our young men into that pit. And that's not the best. The worst, it's a powder keg that can blow sky high.
But the majority leader got the bill passed by arguing this is not another Gulf of Tonkin resolution.
It is not, repeat, not any permission for the administration to do anything, either with respect to reflagging vessels or escorting them or taking any military action of any kind.
There are critics, too, in the Senate. They have blocked a vote arguing existing laws should be used to keep Americans out of combat.
It is clear to me that the moment the United States flag goes up on the poles of those Kuwaiti tankers, the war powers clock ought to begin ticking.
President Reagan is willing to send Congress the report it wants. But the deadline may come while he is still in Europe consulting with the very allies that Congress would have share in Persian Gulf security. Ann Compton, ABC News, Capitol Hill.
A new ABC News Washington Post poll has found support for the U.S. military presence in the Persian Gulf. 3 of 4 Americans surveyed said the U.S. should stay in the Gulf to protect American interests. Just over half say the U.S. should escort Kuwaiti oil tankers in the Gulf, even if it endangers U.S. ships. Turning to the Iran-Contra affair, more than 2/3 of those polled say President Reagan is not telling the truth about the affair. And another man accused of evading the truth, Assistant Secretary of State Elliott Abrams, is testifying again this morning at the Iran-Contra hearings after a tough day yesterday. Vic Ratner is covering the hearings.
Very happily, because
Elliott Abrams appeared at times to be defending himself by blaming Oliver North. He said Secretary of State George Shultz was so worried about North's Contra involvement that he asked Abrams to keep an eye on him.
there was a widespread impression of him as a kind of loose cannon. And it was perhaps in that context also that it was that I was being told to keep track of what he was doing.
But committee lawyers charge Abrams didn't ask North too many questions when the plane carrying Eugene Hasenfuss was shot down over Nicaragua.
Isn't it true, sir, that the only reason you didn't ask Colonel North point blank, or in so many words, whether he was involved or whether there was any U.S. official involved in the Hasenfuss flight, is because you were afraid that you'd get the wrong answer?
No, it is not.
Well, sir,
Abrams contradicted other witnesses, such as former Ambassador Lewis Tams, who testified that Abrams was kept informed about the Contra airlift. He admitted misleading Congress only once on a $10 million donation to the Contras that he obtained from the Sultan of Brunei.
I consider this testimony to have been a great mistake. Maybe the worst single day I had in 6 years as Assistant Secretary, and that is precisely why I went back to the committee.
Abrams later apologized for that, but he faces more questions today about other charges that he tried to mislead Congress or evade congressional questions. Also due here today, independent counsel Lawrence Walsh, who reportedly plans a last-ditch appeal to urge committee members not to vote limited immunity for Oliver North tomorrow as planned. Vic Ratner, ABC News at the Capitol.
The Senate has voted to require AIDS tests for immigrants. Yesterday's vote was overwhelming, 96-0. Meanwhile, at the International AIDS Conference here in Washington, French researcher Daniel Zaguri, who's tried a vaccine on himself and others, says it's shown some progress. But Zaguri says it's too early to tell how effective the experimental vaccine might be. Checking the news calendar now, Oliver North is making an appearance at a federal appeals court here in Washington. North is challenging the constitutionality of the independent counsel investigating the Iran-Contra affair. As many as 10 people may be indicted today in the fraud case involving WedTech, a New York defense contractor. One report says New York Democrat Mario Biaggi will be among those indicted. Leon Sullivan, the author of the Sullivan Principles, which set up fair employment guidelines for U.S. corporations operating in South Africa, is holding a news conference today. Sullivan had hoped his principles would bring an end to apartheid, and he is expected to urge the total withdrawal of U.S. companies from South Africa. And this evening on World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, new accusations about lavish spending by Jim and Tammy Baker. Finally, the music world has lost one of its masters. Classical guitarist Andre Segovia died this morning in Madrid at the age of 94. Segovia was credited with being the father of classical guitar music, as well as being the world's greatest guitar player. Andre Segovia, dead at the age of 94. And that's our news. Joan?
All right, thank you, Edie. And right now it is 8 minutes after. And now it's time for an update on one of our favorite travel stories, the New York garbage barge. It's been 73 days since it pulled out of Islip, Long Island with its 3,100 tons of trash, looking for a home. As you recall, it was rejected by 6 states and 3 countries on its voyage. This morning it is anchored in New York Harbor, still waiting. All this time it's been escorted by the tug, Break of Dawn. We are joining Captain Duffy St. Pierre from his tug this morning in a rare live TV appearance. Captain, good morning.
Good morning, Joan.
All right, what's the latest on the barge?
We don't rightly know. I think it seems like the politicians will be shooting one another before it's over.
Well, for a while there, it looked like you were going to be docking on the New Jersey side by the George Washington Bridge, but then the New Jersey governor came in and said, we don't want you here. How devastating was this last little snag?
It seemed like nobody loves us.
What has life been like for you? I mean, you never anticipated being out this long and not being able to come ashore.
Oh, well, I don't take it too hard. My next-door neighbor spent 6 months on Guadalcanal, Jim Walton, a dear friend of mine, and so I don't take this too hard.
How do you pass your time, though, there on the barge?
Oh, we read and get a little television once in a while. We're not too far out. We eat fairly good, so it's not too bad.
I don't know how to ask this question delicately, but it's been real hot and humid here in the New York area. How has that affected the smell?
Oh, Joan, the smell is gone. The salt water's done eating everything away. There's no longer any smell to this thing. Very little. You know it's there, but it's not as bad as most people think.
What do you plan on doing as soon as you finally get ashore?
Well, I'd like to go to France and spend a couple of months with my sister-in-law and my wife and all.
Well, we hope you'll find a home real soon. Thank you very much for joining us.
Okay, love. Thank you.
It is now 10 after and time for the weather with Spencer Christian. Spencer?
Okay, love, let's take a look at the satellite photos right now, and we'll see a lot of clouds here along this cold front, which is pushing eastward through the Great Lakes and the plains right now. Most of the nation, though, is going to have sunny skies today. It'll be mostly clear down here in the southeast. The west looks great, the northwest, the northern plains, but this frontal system is a troublemaker. It's triggering some rather severe weather. Let's close in and take a look at the area that will have severe areas, I should say. This entire space here colored in by the red is likely to have some turbulent weather today. Tornadoes are possible, large hailstones, strong winds gusting up around 60 miles per hour in the area of the strongest thunderstorms. And the strongest storms right now appear to be down in the southern region of this frontal system in places like Fayetteville, Arkansas, down in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. These are the strongest storms right now. They've weakened just a bit farther northeastward between Cincinnati and Cleveland. So let's take a closer look at this region because heavy rain has fallen here overnight. Some locations reported over 6 inches of rainfall just in the overnight hours in southern and central Texas. And it's going to be another wet and messy day there today. Some flooding is likely, and the storms are quite powerful. So if you're driving around in this region, going outside at all, please be very careful. That's a look at the national weather picture. Here's what's happening in your hometown area.
Expect mostly cloudy skies today with a chance of a shower, much cooler with a high reaching about 79. Partly cloudy tonight, cooler, good sleeping near 50 degrees, partly sunny and cool tomorrow.
And we'll have one final look at today's weather in the next half hour. Joan?
Thank you, Spencer. Right now it's 11 minutes after. Andrew Vax looks into the face of evil, and it makes him angry, so angry that he does something about it. The evil that makes Andrew Vax so angry is child abuse, especially sexual abuse. And what he does about it is defend its victims, attack their abusers, and writes books that he hopes will make the rest of us just as angry as he is. Andrew Vax is a lawyer, a children's advocate who practices in the New York courts. He also is the author of a new hard-boiled detective novel called Strega. In it, the bad guys are child molesters and pornographers. The good guys are the people who put them out of business. And Andrew Vax is with us this morning. It's nice to talk to you again. I think most people, if you ask them, would tell you that child pornography makes them angry, but you say that's not enough. I have to really make them angry. And why is that?
Americans, I think, are unique, and we're like the sleeping giant, lethargic until angered. And when angered, something happens. Not enough has happened, so we need more anger.
So that's kind of the fuel to the fire to put out the child pornography.
Without it, nothing's really going to happen. Not enough has happened, and it's been with us for a very, very long time.
I remember your first novel, Flood, and that was fairly successful. This one is supposed to be even more so.
I hope.
Are we seeing you change to novelist, from attorney to novelist?
Oh, no. Absolutely not.
We need you in the courts.
I wouldn't comment about that, but I certainly have no interest in abandoning my career to write books. The books were a way of reaching a much wider audience than I could reach with nonfiction.
What kind of response have you gotten to your literary efforts?
The full spectrum, from threats to people saying that it galvanized them into trying to change their own lives.
I mean, when thinking about the threats, I thought about it as I read it, and I thought, boy, the people who are in this business probably really hate you. But there are also the people who say, wait a minute, he's so explicit, he almost borders on a kind of pornography himself. How do you answer those people?
It's a good question, and it's a fair question. I don't know how you can depict evil with euphemisms, but I think the purpose is different. And I heard you earlier talking to a couple of people who were arguing about advertising. Pornography is in the eye of the beholder only up to a point, in my view. Kiddie porn is a picture of a crime, so nobody can argue about it. That's the kind of pornography I'm attacking.
Strega is not just angry, it's also informative. I don't know if very many people know what a validation session is. Do you want to explain what a validation session is?
Very briefly, it's the process by which a trained professional finds out whether a child has been sexually abused and hopefully who the perpetrator is. It's a very delicate, complex process, and as you say, most people don't understand it. The purpose of the novel is to explain a lot of things that are normally only explained in the professional journals, but in a way that, I hate this term, but the general public can access.
How optimistic are you that things are going to change?
I'm extremely optimistic.
You are?
Yes, I am. I think that once America really understands what's going on, the anger is going to force politicians to act, because politicians only react. They don't act in advance. They have to be forced to do so. I think this is a public in this country that when it truly gets the message will force the action that's needed.
So if you get them angry enough, you have the public outcry, maybe 5, 10 years down the road.
I don't even think 5, 10 years down the road. Since the last time you and I talked on this show, there have been substantial changes in the law to protect children.
So good to see you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And when we come back, we'll talk about sunken treasure. The treasures of the deep, whose are they anyway? Right after this.
Hello, I think I'll have your charbroiled steak dinner.
But, Monty, which steak dinner will it be? Because now, for only $6.99, Bonanza Restaurants will give you a choice of super sirloin, 3/4-pound T-bone, or a giant ribeye. But that's not all. You also get the fabulous Breast-Testix food bar, and all-you-can-eat dream come true.
I can't take him anywhere.
Look for the special value Bonanza coupons in your newspaper.
Deal is right at your Greater Detroit Chrysler Plymouth dealers. Now own the high-quality Chrysler LeBaron Coupe and get 3.7 financing or $500 cash back. And get Chrysler's 770 protection plan. You can afford better because
we deal in quality at your Greater Detroit Chrysler Plymouth dealers.
See Birmingham Chrysler Plymouth, Monocoty Chrysler Plymouth, or Farmington Hills Chrysler Plymouth.
Everywhere as you go along your way, it's the lower price that's especially nice because it's special every day. We built a feeling, a proud new feeling. We built a feeling, a proud new feeling. We built a proud new feeling at A&P.
Enter the world of new stars and old favorites on the next Entertainment Tonight. First, catch up with Brat Pack idol Rob Lowe on the set of his newest movie.
Hello out there.
Then Arnold Schwarzenegger explains how he muscled his way into Hollywood.
To me, Hollywood was always a dream castle in a way.
Plus, murder, mystery, and wacky music lead the list of new home videos when you enter the world of Entertainment Tonight.
That's E.T. tonight at 7:30 on Channel 7.
Coming up on 18 minutes past the hour. This may not look like much right here, but what you are looking at is part of an estimated $4 million booty. The cargo of a sunken pirate ship called the Witta, found off the coast of Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Now, the question is, to whom does this booty belong? Barry Clifford is the professional salvager who found the Witta and is in the process of salvaging her. There's no question in his mind the treasure belongs to him. But the state of Massachusetts has claimed a 25% share. So far, the courts have sided with Mr. Clifford. But there is federal legislation pending now that could give states the title to all shipwrecks found within their waters. Mr. Clifford joins us now, along with Kenneth Potts, who is the curator of the Lake Michigan Maritime Museum in South Haven, Michigan. Gentlemen, good morning. And Mr. Potts, let me start with you. What is the basic intent of this proposed legislation, and how would it affect the work of the salvagers?
Well, Bill H.R. 74 will finally clarify the issue of ownership of shipwreck resources. It grants title of these resources to the state. It will also provide, I think, for the further development of appropriate management programs. And it does all of this while not favoring any special interest group, be it the salvor, the archaeological community, or the sport diving community. So it's a very fair and forthright bill.
Well, it was my understanding that this bill would essentially turn whatever is found over to the states, and there's no more finders keepers. The salvagers wouldn't be able to keep what they find.
Well, actually, all this bill provides for is the opportunity for the states to develop their own legislation and programs to manage shipwreck sites. And it remains to be seen what those various programs will contain.
Well, if that's the case, then, Mr. Clifford, what is it about this law that you can't live with?
Well, traditionally, laws, the salvage laws were written to encourage people like myself in the salvage business, to take chances with lives and property to return lost material back to commerce. With such restrictive laws, it'll take the incentive away from salvagers, and virtually none of these things will come back to commerce. Whether it's the information that we bring back as well as the treasure. I just don't see states or museums undertaking these very expensive, dangerous projects going out after these remotely located shipwrecks.
When you find these treasures, so to speak, though, there is profit in it for you also. If you're allowed to keep it, then that's quite a nice livelihood for you.
Well, obviously, and that's the way the laws were written, to encourage people, to bring these things back to commerce.
It seems to me he's got a pretty good point here that it's the salvager who goes out, takes the risk and goes to the expense of digging up these treasures, if we may call them that. Why shouldn't he be allowed to keep what he finds? Why does the state want to take this booty over?
Well, I don't think it's an exaggeration, Spencer, to say that shipwreck sites in this country represent one of this nation's most valuable archaeological and historical resources. And unless an appropriate archaeological approach is made to their study, a great deal of this very valuable information is lost. And it is very often the case in the course of treasure salvor activities, in fact, always the case. There is no good example of archaeological documentation in a treasure salvor project that these archaeological measures are not abided by, and henceforth a great deal of the information is lost. The sites are not documented. In many cases, the materials are not appropriately conserved, interpreted, or analyzed. There are in most cases people with inadequate knowledge directing or administering the work, and in the course of that activity, the information is lost, and it's lost for all time.
You're concerned about the responsibility of the salvagers, whether they are responsible in the way they salvage these shipwrecks. You're concerned they may destroy the historical value of what they find?
Well, yes, there is no example where salvors have conducted work in an appropriate archaeological fashion on any site in this country or otherwise.
All right, let me turn back to Mr. Clifford then. You may be a very responsible salvager, but if you accept the assertion that there are those who are not, how do you propose to protect these historical items?
Well, it's very important that, that the government recognizes that unless the salvager is given the opportunity to retrieve and excavate these ships in a way that we are doing. When we've done this with Massachusetts very successfully, and I think it's a premier example of how a private company can work with a government body. But unless the salvager is given the opportunity to do this, this will encourage looting. And when the salvage laws were originally written, they took in consideration of this, that without the reward at the end of the tunnel, looting will occur.
Is there any agreement here that there's fairness in the law that's being proposed, the pending legislation, very quickly? You don't think it's fair?
Not at all.
You do?
I think it's entirely fair, yes.
The debate continues. Thank you, gentlemen. Next half hour, Julio Iglesias.
Summer's on the way, and I've got a problem. When you need high tops for this guy, aerobic Oxfords for my Sue, not to mention my joggers, and his court shoes, it'll cost a mint.
Problem solved. Choose from Pickway's entire stock of men's, women's, and children's athletic shoes. Pay the regular price for the first pair. Buy a second pair at equal or lower value for half price. Mix or match. Women's, children's, men's. Pickway athletic shoes. Second pair, half price sale.
Okay, everybody, look and listen. The plan is to tell your parents they really need a break. They need a getaway where they can exercise, relax, and eat. Why, Jason? Because if you talk him into going, you'll love all the fun on the water slide, in the play area.
Oh, boy.
And everywhere.
Is this your dad's projector, Jason?
Shh. Just tell your folks. This place is real close, lots of fun, and it doesn't cost much allowance.
Jason, are you and your friends down there?
Wheels in is fun for everyone.
On the next Kelly and Company.
Today's hottest television star, Miss Vanna White, tells how the Wheel of Fortune has made her a fortune. And we'll discover the winner of the Vanna White Lookalike Contest and watch her shop for thousands, and I do mean thousands of dollars in prizes. And at 10, you guessed it, it's Oprah.
Hollywood strongman Arnold Schwarzenegger on the next Oprah Winfrey Show.
That's Kelly at 9, Oprah at 10, weekday mornings right here on 7.
Don't know much about history. Don't know much biology. Don't know much about a science book. Don't know much about the French I took.
Smoking marijuana impairs your memory and distorts your perception. Just what you need before going to school.
Don't know much about geometry. No, 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 no.
Channel 7 Action News this morning, brought to you in part by your Metro Detroit Chevy dealers, just a heartbeat away. Here's Eric Smith.
Thank you, and good morning once again, everybody. Detroit's official temperature finally moved up a degree in the past hour. We're at 69 at Metro Airport. Mostly cloudy skies, a ray of sunshine here and there around the metro area. Humidity at 97 sticky %, and the wind moving now from the west at about 10 miles per hour. The rush hour at 8:25 is just about over. Things are winding down, but we still have our same problem existing at 8 Mile and Schaefer, where a car struck a utility pole, a light pole, knocked it down, and it's blocking the 2 right lanes of traffic. Police are on the scene directing motorists at the scene. No other problems, but be aware, 8 Mile and Schaefer, we do have some problems. Detroit Edison says it expects to have all of its customers with electricity by noontime today. The utility says at the peak of the storm yesterday, about 8,500 customers lost power. Mother Nature unleashing some high winds and heavy rain in southeastern Michigan. Edison says as of 6 a.m., 540 of their customers were still without electricity, and those remain the latest figures available. 4 Greenpeace activists are due in court this morning to face trespassing charges. The charges stem from a Greenpeace demonstration at the site of Detroit's controversial trash-to-energy incinerator project yesterday. 3 of the trespassers scaled a crane and hung a banner denouncing the incinerator. Critics say it is a threat to the environment. The protesters were then arrested in daring helicopter maneuvers by Detroit police officers. Insiders claim there's very little hope of passage in the State House of a package of bills cracking down on drug dealers, particularly those who use youngsters as their drug runners. The Senate passed the measures unanimously yesterday and sent them along to the House. Among other things, they provide for a mandatory 2-year jail sentence for distributing drugs to a minor, and they allow prosecutors to grant immunity to some teens who would provide information in drug investigations. In the past, similar measures have failed in the House. We'll take a look and flip a page on today's news calendar when Action News This Morning returns in a moment.
See how the Motor City loves its Chevys. Feel the freedom on the road ahead.
Now, get $500 cash back on the all-new 88 Beretta or $500 back on the new 88 Corsica at your Metro Detroit Chevy dealers.
Your new Chevrolet is just a heartbeat away.
At Marolis, Jack Cawley, or Mark Chevrolet.
You can help bring smiles to the faces of thousands of Special Olympic athletes by purchasing specially designated products at these Spartan stores: Banner Superstore, Leadway Supermarket, and Greenfield Supermarket. And save on these specials, too. Smucker's Grape Jelly or Jam, just 98 cents. Banquet Frozen Dinners, just 88 cents. And Shed's Country Crock Spread in the 3-pound tub, $1.28. Shop at these Spartan stores and support the Michigan Special Olympic Summer Games.
Well, these are among the stories that we expect to develop today. Action News will be watching them for you, and of course we'll bring them to you later. A conference committee of state lawmakers expected to finally make a decision on the 65-mile-an-hour speed limit law and the fuzzbuster ban that some want attached to it. The United Auto Workers Union will be wrapping up their meetings in Detroit today. Contract talks with GM and Ford set to begin next month. And motorcycle enthusiasts will be in Lansing today for their annual protest against the state's mandatory motorcycle helmet laws. Well, it was a section of the Detroit riverfront that has now been formally named. The stretch from the Ren-Sen to Belle Isle will now, henceforth and forever, be formally known as the Rivertown District. Rivertown includes the new Stroh Place, River Place, Homes, and a number of other businesses. Well, the Tigers got rained out last night. They'll try again tonight down in Cleveland when they send Jack Morris to the mound. Elsewhere, things are kind of quiet on the local sports scene. Not quiet on the satellite map. We've got a big frontal system moving down across the state of Michigan this morning. And if it'll ever get through here, it's taking its sweet time, we will eventually wind up with some clearing skies and much lower humidities, which will certainly be welcome at my house. I don't know about yours. Mostly cloudy skies today and cooler temperatures. We'll be up to about 78, maybe 79 degrees for a high. And tomorrow the dry out should begin and we'll have nice clear skies and fair weather. That's Action News for this morning. Have a good Wednesday.
From Troy, Ohio, home of the 11th Annual Strawberry Festival, good morning, America!
All right, the old Strawberry Festival.
You bet. Hi, I'm Joan London.
And
Spencer Christian's with me today.
That's right, sitting in for Charlie Gibson, who is lucky guy in Europe for the Economic Summit Conference.
Off to Venice, Italy. He's doing a few stories, though, over the next couple of days and be ready for next Monday's show.
That is
And
correct.
today is what? It's Wednesday, right?
Wednesday, June 3rd.
June 3rd, there you go.
Those months just keep on coming. We will go live to the White House in a few minutes where President Reagan is preparing to leave for the Economic Summit. But first, this guy has the looks of a matinee idol and a voice to match. He is Julio Iglesias, of course, and he also has a new album. We'll see Chantal's visit with Julio Iglesias in this half hour. And if you love The Untouchables on TV, Joel Siegel will tell us how good the movie is, or maybe how not so good the movie is.
And who do you know who doesn't like spaghetti?
Everybody likes spaghetti.
Everybody likes spaghetti. In this half hour, we will meet the winner of a contest to find the best spaghetti sauce. And you have judges right here, and Spencer and myself, and we're going to give you the recipe. How's that look? Good?
My mouth is watering.
Mine too. Right now, though, it's 31 minutes after. Edie Magnus has the news for us. Edie, good morning. Good morning, Joan, Spencer, and good morning, everyone. President Reagan and the First Lady are heading for Italy this morning on the way to the Venice Economic Summit next week. They will spend a few days at a villa outside Venice. On Saturday, the Reagans will have a private audience with Pope John Paul II. The dollar is regaining strength this morning after a case of jitters hit international money markets yesterday. Investors are waiting to see whether economist Alan Greenspan, designated to succeed Federal Reserve Chairman Paul Volcker, will follow Volcker's conservative money policies aimed at holding down major interest rates and keeping the lid on inflation. The fate of a young West German pilot who landed his plane near the Kremlin remains uncertain. 19-year-old Matthias Rust has been in Soviet custody since last Thursday. Earlier here on Good Morning America, spokesman Gennady Gerasimov said Soviet investigators have several theories about the reasons for the stunt.
One is that it is promotion trip for Cessna manufacturers. The other is that he made it just for the fun of it. But then it was very risky fun. And the third theory is conspiracy theory to probe Soviet defenses.
Gerasimov said Rust's fate would depend on the Soviet investigation, but the spokesman said a pilot who pulled a similar stunt in 1938 in order to visit his Soviet fiancée was fined and released. More than a dozen people have been injured by a fire in Lyon, France. A field of gasoline tanks erupted in a series of explosions yesterday. Flames leaped as high as 150 feet into the air. Hundreds of firefighters did manage to keep the fire away from other fuel tanks nearby. Also in Lyon, Nobel Peace Laureate Elie Wiesel has warned a French court against efforts to deny that the World War II Holocaust ever happened. Wiesel testified in the trial of Klaus Barbie, accused of sending Jews and partisans to death camps. Pierre Salinger reports Barbie has chosen a defense attorney with a colorful background.
Jacques Vergès, the lawyer defending Klaus Barbie, is a complicated personality. A former communist, he spent 3 years of his youth in Czechoslovakia, where some intelligence agencies say he was recruited by the KGB. In his turbulent career, he became a Maoist, then involved in the Algerian independence movement against France. From 1970 to 1978, he mysteriously disappeared and has steadfastly refused to say where he was. Earlier this year, Vergès defended the Middle East terrorist George Ibrahim Abdallah. After an opening statement, Abdallah walked out for the duration of the trial. Vergès' clients seem to have adopted this tactic. Barbie also walked out on the third day of his trial. Despite the worldwide view that Barbie is guilty, Vergès insists he will prove his client's innocence.
People are convinced that he is guilty. I shall prove, if people are able to listen to me, that he is not guilty of what he is accused today.
Vergès, who is a professional in press relations, has threatened to reveal dramatic information about French citizens who collaborated with the Germans during the war. So far, he hasn't done so. But the Barbie trial will last another 6 weeks. Plenty of time for Vergès to fulfill his promise. Pierre Salinger, ABC News, Paris.
Thank you, Edie. And right now it is 34 minutes after. In a moment, Spencer will be back with the weather, brought to you by Nabisco Shredded Wheat.
Think your cereal is nutritious? Put down your spoon and listen. Because a leading consumer magazine ranked 59 cold cereals on fiber, protein, sugar, sodium, and fat. And of those 59 cereals, they found 3 varieties in Nabisco Shredded Wheat topped the ratings, providing plenty of fiber and protein, no sugar, and very little sodium or fat. So before you pick up your spoon, pick up the leading cereal that topped the ratings, Nabisco Shredded Wheat.
Nabisco. Okay, it's time for our final look at this Wednesday's weather. We'll start with today's outlook, which is a pretty good outlook, actually, for most of the nation, especially the western and central parts of the country. Sunny skies out here, dry conditions, very, very pleasant, very hot over much of California and Arizona. Temperatures climbing into the 90s, even breaking the 100-degree mark in some locations. Nice over the northern plains also, but a little windy and a little cooler than normal. Here's the messy weather right along this cold front, which is slowly pushing eastward from the eastern Great Lakes across the Ohio and Tennessee valleys and down into Texas. It's going to be stormy and steamy today, and right along the coast, not so bad, a little summery and sultry. Now, by tomorrow, this frontal system will have pushed right onto the Atlantic and Gulf Coast. It'll be hugging the coastline, and all these areas from Maine to Florida and back to Texas may see some wet weather. That's a look at the national weather picture. Here's what's happening in your hometown area.
Expect mostly cloudy skies today with a chance of a shower, much cooler with a high reaching about 79. Partly cloudy tonight, cooler, good sleeping near 50 degrees, partly sunny and cool tomorrow.
And that's our Wednesday weather. Please enjoy. Joan?
Thank you, Spencer. Elliot Ness comes to the big screen. Joel's review right after this.
Off, and a special thank you to the Marine Band for that great music. As you know, Nancy and I are leaving today for the Economic Summit in Venice, and many of you have helped me prepare for this meeting, and I'm most grateful. Others of you will, in the months ahead, join with me in helping to chart the course not only for our economy, but in large measure for the entire world's economy. Of course, I'm looking forward to continuing our common work. But for a moment, rather than address you, the men and women who are my partners in shaping our nation's policies for the future, I would like to direct my words to some very special guests. To those of you here today who are the future, you graduates of James Madison High School. The man your school was named for, James Madison, has been called the father of our Constitution. And he was also our 4th president. And no, I was not one of his staff or advisors. But in the his first inaugural address, Madison said these simple and profound words. "It has been the true glory of the United States," he said, "to cultivate peace by observing justice." Well, this is a particularly good moment for remembering that wisdom. On this trip, I will commemorate the 40th anniversary of the Marshall Plan. Yes, 40 years ago, the United States said that if Europe were ever to see an end to the specter of war that had haunted the great continent for over 2 centuries, all of its people would have to know freedom, democracy, and justice. And so we extended both to allies and former enemies a helping hand, a hand of compassion and a hand of hope. The Soviet Union declined to take part in the Marshall Plan, as did the countries under its control. But to the rest of Europe, we gave help. What we know now as Western Europe was rebuilt. And today, in part as a result of the Marshall Plan, those countries and the United States, as well as Japan, have known the longest period of general peace in this century and the greatest prosperity in the history of man. At this economic summit, I will look around the table and see, thanks in part to the generosity and wisdom of our nation over the past 40 years, not the leaders of broken, desperate, and despotic nations, but the leaders of strong and stable democracies, countries that today are our partners for peace on the world stage. Next week, each leader at that table will be asking the same questions. How can we help make the next 40 years as prosperous as the last 40? How can we help our peoples live in a world of even greater opportunities in the next decade and the next century? Well, some of the answers to these questions are clear. Our countries should move forward to end unsustainable trade imbalances, to reform agricultural policies, and restore stability to the international currency markets. The major economic powers of the world must also work to eliminate inequities in the international trade environment, to keep markets open and to keep commerce flowing. Economic growth and free markets are everybody's business. At Venice, we'll talk about how to improve East-West relations. We will discuss arms reductions, human rights problems, regional conflicts, and bilateral cooperation. Our discussion in Venice will help strengthen Western solidarity, which is indispensable to progress on issues of contention between the East and West. We will also address various regional issues and other problems such as international terrorism, where we can point to stepped up and increasingly effective Western fronts, or efforts, I should say, especially after last year's summit in Tokyo. Despite this long agenda, we won't find all the answers to those questions about our future at this summit, not by a long shot. In fact, many of the answers will come from where mankind's greatest energy and vision have always come, from you, from those like you throughout the world, from the hope that lives in the hearts of free people everywhere. But we will take steps. We will continue the work of, as Madison said, cultivating peace by observing justice. All out talking. As I sit at that table and remember Madison's words, I will see not just the faces of those other leaders, but your faces as well. So thanks again for coming here today, and God bless you all.
That concludes President Reagan's remarks at the White House. From here, he goes to Andrews Air Force Base, where he will board a plane bound for Venice and the 13th Annual Economic Summit, Mr. Reagan's 7th summit, where he will be meeting with the leaders of Britain, West Germany, France, Italy, Canada, and Japan. ABC News, of course, is going to be providing coverage of the summit throughout. Joan?
All right, thank you, Edie. And Elliot Ness comes to the big screen. We will have Joel's review right after this. Stay with us.
The mood is cotton, the moment your own. Abandon yourself to the feel. So comfortable, easy and calm. Embrace the feeling. Take comfort in cotton. Find the True Performance label on Farrah All Cotton Permanent Press Slacks.
You'll like where the company put you, Thompson. It's near the office.
Not the Green Hotel.
No, you'd need a line of credit for a night's sleep. We're almost there.
Well, this is a nice surprise.
The Travelodge Super Summer Rates. Friendly service and Travelodge Super Summer Rates. As low as $35 at many Travelodge locations. Call toll-free 1-800-255-3050.
I needed a big change. So I took my daughter, hit the road, and found a job and a place to live all in one. I'm a housekeeper now. For Angela. Mother, busy executive, and one terrific lady.
He was my mother's idea. Imagine having a hunk for a housekeeper.
Tony Danza and Judith Light brighten your weekday mornings with the original episodes of Who's the Boss on ABC.
The optical department at Sears has cut the price in half. Every stylish eyeglass frame from our entire regular stock, now half price when you buy prescription lenses.
That's not all. Right now, you can get soft contact lenses at the fantastic low price of only $39. Imagine soft contact lenses for only $39. So hurry in
to the optical department at Sears.
There's more for your life
At the optical department.
at Sears.
It's 45 minutes and 6 seconds past the hour. They were uncorruptible, undaunted, uncompromising, the Untouchables. They were also a big hit on television. Now they're in the movies. Joel Siegel's here with a review.
And no Walter Winchell narration here, Spencer, but we don't need it. We know the story. Elliot Ness, the lone innocent, come to clean up Chicago. Directed by Brian De Palma, and I am a fan. Wonderful film references to John Ford Westerns, to the battleship Potemkin. The opening scene, Citizen Kane, is shot straight down. Al Capone, attended like the Dalai Lama, under a mile of Turkish towel in a yard of steam and lather, getting his morning shave. He tells a reporter, I grew up in a tough neighborhood. We used to say, you can get farther with a kind word and a gun than you can with just a kind word. Great writing from David Mamet, one of our finest playwrights, and the acting. Robert De Niro plays Capone. Look at that swagger, that gleam in his eyes. He is great.
I have done nothing to hurt these people, but they're angry at me, so what do? Doctor up some income tax, for which they got no case. To annoy me, to speak to me like men, no. To harass, a peaceful minute. I pray to God that if I ever had a grievance, I would have just a little more self-respect.
He is just great. De Niro is having a dinner for his coworkers. He's got a baseball bat, gives a lecture about how baseball is a team sport. One of the guys at the table is not a team player. De Niro belts the guy over the left field wall. Brutal, powerful. Smash cut to Elliot Ness's 5-year-old daughter saying her prayers. Cliches are here on purpose, as if Mamet and De Palma are reinventing the gangster film. And when it works, it's brilliant filmmaking. The sidekick, perfectly reinvented by Sean Connery, another great performance. He explains the rules to Elliot Ness.
You want to get Capone? Here's how you get him. He pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way. And that's how you get Capone. Now, do you want to do that? Are you ready to do that? I'm making you a deal. Do you want this deal?
I have sworn to put this man away with any and all legal means at my disposal, and I will do so.
And I will do so. That is Kevin Costner, and that's just terrible. He was great in Silverado, which wasn't a hit. He was cut out of The Big Chill, where he played the body. Hollywood's been waiting for the role that would make him a huge star. They're going to have to wait a little longer. Connery on camera, great, but on camera for maybe 20 minutes. De Niro, don't believe the advertising, less than 10 minutes. That makes half an hour of a great movie, but the rest of the film is Costner's, and he just can't carry it. It's not all his fault. Some of it's the direction. He's asked to play too pure. But of all the major characters in the film, he's the least interesting. The Untouchables is far from unwatchable, and it's not unmentionable or unintelligible, but it's never unbelievable. Maybe Robert Stack.
Only 10 minutes of De Niro? How can you have only 10 minutes of De Niro in this film?
So great. So great.
But Costner ruins it for you. Yeah.
I hate to But yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Joel. We'll cheer you up in just a minute with the champion of the spaghetti sauce world. Yum. It's 48 minutes past the hour.
Oh, caramel corn for breakfast. Want a little milk for that?
No, thanks, Dad, but how about some sugar for your, what is that, acorns?
Nuggets. Nutri-Grain nuggets.
Sounds healthy.
Yep, whole grain.
Whole grain. Where are the holes in here?
Introducing Nutri-Grain Nuggets, the first whole grain nugget cereal.
It's really crunchy.
Whole grain's not half bad.
Kellogg's Nutri-Grain Nuggets. Finally, a whole grain nugget.
Figured you'd bring a gun.
Brought something better. FTD picked me up bouquet.
Pretty.
For you.
For me? Shucks. Nobody's been giving them flowers before. I like it.
Only from your FTD florist.
For a fresh-tasting Italian dressing, you could do this. Or do this. Wishbone Italian dressings. Fresh-tasting reasons salads wish for.
We deal in quality.
Deal is right at your Greater Detroit Chrysler Plymouth dealer.
Own this fantastic value, Plymouth Horizon America, just $57.99, and get a laundry list of features, plus the 770 protection plan.
You can afford better because
We deal in quality at your Greater Detroit Chrysler Plymouth dealers.
See Golling Chrysler Plymouth, Richmond Chrysler Plymouth, or Schumann Chrysler Plymouth.
When I grow up, I want to go to college. I want to get married and have children. I want to get a job and go to work every day. And I want to have a nice house. I want everybody in the world to stop fighting and just love each other.
Different people, different races, different customs from different places. This is who Detroit is made of. But in the hearts of us all, there's really no difference at all.
It is now 10 minutes before 9. If you are looking for a great new spaghetti sauce recipe, you've come to the right place this morning. Melody Shropshire from Dallas, Texas is this year's winner of the Great Spaghetti Hunt, sponsored by Hunt Spaghetti Sauce People. She is here to share her recipe with us this morning. And good morning to you.
Good morning.
I'm going to spill the beans here. Your big secret is lentils.
Lentils.
You put lentils in your sauce.
Right.
How did that come about?
Well, the idea came from my mother-in-law. My husband and I are both vegetarians, and she's always looking for something. She thinks we might be lacking something. So she sent me the recipe, a version of the recipe about 5 or 6 years ago, and I've changed it and used it for about 5 or 6 years. So it doesn't bear a whole lot of resemblance to the original recipe.
Why don't you just share that secret recipe with all of us right now?
Okay, do you want me to go ahead and make it? Well, I'm sauteing onions, a half an onion and a clove of garlic in a teaspoon of olive oil. And then I'm going to add a 15-ounce can of the Hunt's tomato sauce.
Okay.
Okay.
And a half a cup of chopped tomato.
Smells good already.
Yeah, it smells great.
And then a quarter cup of lentils.
All right, these are just how you buy them right out of the package. Just dump
you
them
can
right in
rinse
there.
them.
But you don't have to pre-cook them and all that.
No, nothing.
Okay.
And then a cup of water.
Now,
It's
as
really
a
easy.
vegetarian, do the lentils provide the protein that you lack
They
by not
provide
having meat?
protein, they provide iron, they combine real well with the pasta to make a complete protein. Okay.
Okay.
And then I have some spices in here, oregano, basil, and thyme. And
All right.
add those.
See, not too much, you know,
Not-
so just
Just a dash,
enough.
just a little.
And then a quarter teaspoon of salt.
I guess with the oregano and thyme and the basil, you have to experiment to find just the right amount to use.
Right, right. And then you can put an optional dash of red pepper sauce.
a little Tabasco sauce.
I'll opt for that.
All right, now how long do you cook this?
You simmer it for 45 minutes, and then it's finished.
45 minutes, and that's it. It's finished.
It's a great recipe for when you don't have anything else ready.
It's a great recipe for all of us working moms, too.
And for those of us who love pasta, I can.
Of course, that's not Spencer or me, right?
I love. Let me ask you this: as someone who would like to maintain his schoolboy physique, do I have to worry about calories eating this dish?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, the olive oil is the only fat in the dish, and that's a beneficial oil to have.
A little for you, a lot
wait,
for
what
me.
is this?
I'm
Look at
sorry,
this.
I'm sorry. I'm going to give
Just
you more.
because you're eating for two?
So you're going to convince me that pasta's not fattening? I want to be convinced.
It's
I mean, do it to me.
the butter you put on it. That's the fattening part.
So if you just do the pasta like this and then you put on the sauce, and here's some sauce over here done.
Let me have some of that sauce. Is it still
And it's
hot?
got a thickness to it. Is it still hot? Boy, are you you're being picky choosy here? Yeah, it's hot. Do you see the steam coming off? Here you go. There's this.
No, a little more.
Okay.
No, I'm going to go to the gym today. I can afford to eat a little bit more. Plus, she said it's low in calories, and I love lentil. It'll give me the protein.
I'm going to the gym, too.
Looks like you're already pumped up there, kid.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
I just have to ask. I know that I think was it the second runner-up that used some spinach in her sauce? Were you able to taste hers?
No, I didn't taste it.
No, so I can't ask if it was any good? I don't know if you can tell me anyway.
Excellent. Both the other recipes.
All right, go ahead.
Wonderful. I'm trying to get
While I stuff my face, you go ahead.
This is absolutely fantastic. This is better than any sauce I've ever had with meat in it. This is wonderful.
Joni likes it. Like the answer. That's great stuff. Oh, I'm going to try this one. And you know what? You have a 3.5-year-old, right?
I have a 3.5-year-old girl.
She loves it?
She loves it. She's
okay, I'll try it on mine.
If you'd like a copy of this recipe, as I talk with my mouth full,
See how easy
and all
it is
other
to talk with
recipes
your
shown
mouth
on
full?
Good Morning America for the month of June, just send $1 and a self-addressed stamped envelope to Good Morning America, June Recipes, Hana, Hawaii, 96713.
That's easy.
And I can't talk. Get us out of this.
This is very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll be back with more right after this from Samsonite. Tomorrow, Don Amici. On Friday, John Lithgow.
Something everyone worries about when flying is whether their carry-on luggage will fit. So Samsonite designed carry-ons you truly can carry on, like our combination suitcase and garment bag, proving once again that our strengths are legendary.
The Canon Sure Shot Supreme is so automatic, you can't take a bad shot. Backlit shots, Sure Shot flashes automatically. Too close? Autofocus gets this close. The Canon Sure Shot Supreme, so advanced, every shot's a Sure Shot.
Watch this. We'll prove that you can keep fleas and ticks off your dog or cat with Hart's Blockade. Fleas are all over this untreated lab dish. We've sprayed the left side of this dish with Hart's Blockade, while the right side remains untreated. Watch how Blockade repels the fleas. They literally jump to the untreated side. Ticks normally want to crawl to the top, as they do in this untreated tube. See how the Blockade-treated cap of this tube repels ticks? They stay at the bottom. Block fleas and ticks from your pet with Hart's Blockade.
And now Edie Magnus has a look at the news headlines. Edie?
Spencer, President Reagan is heading to the Economic Summit in Venice. The president is leaving a day after naming economist Alan Greenspan to replace Paul Volcker, the retiring chairman of the Federal Reserve Board. Independent counsel Lawrence Walsh is asking congressional investigators not to grant limited immunity to ousted White House aide Oliver North in exchange for North telling what he knows about the Iran-Contra affair. The Iran-Contra hearings will have more questions today for Assistant Secretary of State Elliott Abrams. So far, Abrams has defended himself by blaming Oliver North for efforts to supply the Nicaraguan Contras when such aid was banned by Congress. The International AIDS Conference is continuing here in Washington. Yesterday, the Senate voted to require AIDS testing for immigrants. As many as 10 indictments are expected today in the fraud case involving the New York City defense contractor WEDTech. Among those reportedly to be named, New York Democrat Mario Biaggi. And Peter Jennings will have a complete wrap-up this evening on World News Tonight. Spencer?
Thanks, Edie.
He's still eating spaghetti.
Tomorrow, Don Amici will tell us about his new movie, plus a look at videotape rentals. Should children be stopped from renting violent movies? Steve Fox has been examining the rise and fall of Jim and Tammy Baker. His report will focus on whether they can pick up the pieces or is their ministry over for good.
And the next time I have to do that, don't laugh at me.
Okay.
In case you missed it, here's how you answered yesterday's question, which was, would you personally submit to an AIDS test? 25,656 said yes, and only 1,865 said no. And that's it for today.
I'm saying yes to this pasta. This
Absolutely.
is terrific.
From all of us here at Good Morning America, have a great day.
Have a good one. A sunny one.
Young people from all walks of life have volunteered to take part in a frightening experiment. They are allowing their brains to be altered. Altered to induce paranoia, heart malfunction, memory loss, even early senility. Unfortunately, this is not an experiment. It's what slowly happens to you when you keep smoking pot. No one has to alter your brain. You've already volunteered to do it to yourself.